You don't realize, fully appreciate, maybe that's the word, are fully conscious of the fact that you have something that the rarest thing in the whole world that's making my family shines. We are the most prominent family in that area. They try to make me look like a cult leader and all kinds of stuff. You know how the American press hold up somebody good and ridicule them, and hold up somebody bad and glorify that. It didn't work anymore. I got my own radio station. My kids have their own restaurants and tea gardens, and they have their own real estate companies with 100 salespeople working. They have their own real estate companies with 100 salespeople working for them in that area. They're the best. So, all the politicians are now coming to the radio station and putting their ads on our station. We are shining. We took all the persecution and turned it around and made it. Nietzsche says that which does not kill me. Don't gripe when hard times come. Hard times, being poor, whatever, that's a good start. Don't start off rich. Don't look for advantage. Don't be jealous of what everybody else has got. Look around you. I needed money one time. I looked around me and I saw I don't have any money. What I'm going to do one time? I looked around me and I saw I don't have any money. What I'm going to do when I start something? So I was sitting on the furniture. There's my money. I sold the furniture, and then I went out and bought some more furniture, and sold that furniture for a profit. And I kept on doing. I had a furniture shop running in my house. I had a business going. I had investment. So pretty soon I was making as much in my furniture house than I was making in my work. It was like two people were working. See? You don't have to look very far to get started in something. And I forgot where I was going to go with that. Take the stresses and the cruelties and the hardships. Don't resent them. Grit your teeth. And let those stresses, something in you respond to those stresses with patience and long suffering, and you won't realize you're growing. See, you won't realize suffering, and you won't realize you're growing. See, you won't realize you're growing, because if evil doesn't grow in you, if stress doesn't get inside you to tear you apart and grow in you as you, and transmit through you as if you were a conduit, from hell to earth. If you learn to just keep the stresses out with patience and long suffering, there's no more you need to do. You only need to deal with the stresses of life with dignity and long suffering and patience and not anger, and don't lose the faith. Don't react and don't get upset and don't get angry because things don't go your way. You just learn to deal with it with equanimity and dignity and long suffering, just like the Bible says. You learn to deal with it. If you have a horrible wife or a horrible husband or horrible circumstances, great start. You deserve horrible circumstances, great start. You deserve what you got because that's how you dug yourself in there. But see, is that right or not? And every time you don't react properly to something, you dig yourself deeper. There's only one way out. Understand the way you got in and the way it got in. Magical things will happen. Your life will start to unfold like a flower, and things will happen to you that you never tried to make happen. All the good things happen that you would have wanted for yourself, they'll happen. The scripture says it, I shall open up the windows of heaven and you shall not have room enough to receive. Now there are some of you here can bear witness to what I'm saying, that very strange, interesting, beautiful things start happening to your life, don't they? Your kids get better, and you don't have to lord it over them, you don't have to yell and scream. Just things happen. Opportunities open up. Your friends are different. Opportunities open up. Your friends are different. The enemies fall away. Opportunities present themselves where they would never have seen them before. You're too busy drinking and not, worrying about your own pain. You're saving the money that you and you've got the money for the opportunity when it comes your way. I gave an example to my son. When he was young, he was a very good salesperson. When he was 11 years old, he had there was a rage of making Indian jewelry, turquoise and things like that. So he caught on real quick. a thrift store at the time, so you sit outside the thrift store and put this jewelry together. It's very pretty, with silver beads and turquoise. People would buy it, and he was 11 years old, and he'd have dealers coming to the house with boxes of beads and things, and he'd peel out $100 bills. 11 years old. This guy now has his own business, and he has his own car lot, and he has his own wrecking yard, and he's in business. He's a fine young man. Handsome too. He's married girls, don't worry. And but he was wasteful. He's always been wasteful for that money. Easy come, easy go. So I had to keep it. Give it to me. Let me have it. Show you something. Don't spend it. So he gave it to me. He said, okay. And he came to me a couple of times. I want the money. I said, no. What's it for? I said, this is one experiment. So one day, a young idiot down the street wanted to sell his Volkswagen. It was a souped up, it must have cost him $10,000 to put it together like this. It was just a beautiful thing. It's just an older car, but it was just money lavished on it to give him that good feeling. And he needed money, and probably snorting coke or something. So they came to me and said, Dad, got an opportunity. Here's the money. So he turned around and sold the car for $6,600. So he made $3,300 profit. It was worth 10. He went to a local antique car dealer show or something like that. I said, see, son, when the opportunities come, and if you waste it, the opportunities that come, but they're not there. Besides, you don't have the character. Because character, and if you have character, you save the money. Saving the money and not indulging yourself, putting yourself on welfare, strengthens your character. You don't resist the temptation to indulge yourself. Weakens your character. So you have the character, which is the strength to see the opportunity and the money to obtain it. Therefore, that's success. Now that little combination of character and savings, character truly makes the difference whether you... Today he's in business because of that idea. But otherwise he could have been someone just living his life like everybody else, drunk, getting himself a television or music. You listen to the BBC, that's all you got here. Yeah. You see? I say that you can all be successful. And I want to see to it that, I hope this will penetrate. But you've got to have character. Because there's nothing worse than a person who has no character with success. What's that guy Elvis Presley? Elvis Presley? There's a man without character with success. Couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle the power. He had 16,000 different kinds of drugs they tried. Finally, he just killed himself. Couldn't stand the pain, the uprush, the ego uprush. If you're going to be successful, learn to deal with disappointment and suffering. Take it in your stride. And then it will prepare you for the success which is to come. Make sense?
How your mind can keep you well, yeah. But I have a tendency to dwell on things.
So that's unforgiveness. That's what you just said you understood.
Yeah, but it's
unforgiveness. You hear me?
still hanging on.
He's still. That's right. That's what. Anything that you can't get rid of, they still. See, the past is constantly being you haven't let it go. So something similar happens and it revives it. It strengthens it in you. So that's how you recognize it. So how do you get rid of the mental problem? You recognize that the reason why the past comes up is because something happens in the present that reminds you, that reinforces it. So the way you do that is that if you're aware enough, objective enough, you can see it for what it is. You can see that that's simply the past revisiting itself in the present, and you are simply compulsively resenting that person. Like maybe it's a look like someone's view of what you see some drunken father come in on a television program. It reminds you of your dad, and you watch that, and it stirs something in you. Now that person didn't do anything to you. He's just beating up the kid on the television. He's not doing it to you, but you identify with the kid on the television. It intimidates you to resent that man, intimidates you to resent that man. And now, that's how you can become a drunk again, if you let that go. But if you're wise, you'll identify your unfinished business by becoming conscious of that moment, and you can actually see yourself compulsively resenting that man, that acting like your dad. Your reaction to that father is not one of an original resentment, it's a compulsive judgment. Anything that looks like that father makes you hate him without your permission. You give it permission the first time, but the second time you don't need your permission. It just has to be there, and it taunts you to hate it. And your hate is compulsive. Stand back, let that moment go, recognize it, and you're disconnected from your past and your father right then. So you're disconnected from the earth of it, reconnected by the understanding to the heaven. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, but even if it smells horrible, if you're reacting to it, but if you react, let's say, take the drink. So you go into a bar and it smells awful, it makes you sick to your stomach. You shouldn't. You still have a connection to that. That's still your father. That's still a connection to that. That's still your father. That's still the drink, the smell of that drink. Look, I'll talk about this later on, but when you're traumatized by someone cruel, everything in the scene of the crime has the effect as the person who did it to you. So if you were, and I use the same example over and over and over again, if you were raped in the back seat of a red Chevrolet on a rainy night with a man with a grey beard and blue eyes, 50 years old, then everything red would affect you, negatively or positively, aversion or attraction. One of the two makes you aversion to it or attracted to it, compulsively. If I raped you with an English flag, I can turn you against England or for England in a fanatical way. Got it? And you'll be tied to that flag, compulsively controlled by me waving that flag. I'll demonstrate that to you on Sunday or Monday. I'll show you how that's done. I'm not rape anybody with a flag or anything like that. Demonstrate the principle. And so everything connected to that, I'll be with you in just a moment. The color of the car, the year of the car, the rainy night, cloudy night, the time, midnight. Even time, even your conditioning is time sensitive. The beard, the age of the man that you could be attracted to older men. Or you could hate older men and you want younger ones. See what I mean? So you're a compulsive person. You're no longer your own person. So therefore, if you're a young lady that's had that experience in her life, you'll always be controlled by men who had red cars, just had blue eyes, just like the man that raped you. You'll be attracted to them, fascinated by it. Control. The past is always coming in the present in one of those forms, taking you over. This is the nature that all of your problems are reinforced every day. If they weren't reinforced every day, they'd fall away. If the effect on you weren't reinforced, they'd cease to influence you. What breaks the spell is something called forgiveness. It breaks the earth grip, the reinforcing earth grip. Who understands me? Do you understand that? Understand that? I understand you completely. You see how it disconnects you from the time present? The time present? Something inside you that's eternal? Has nothing to do with time. Has nothing to do with the elements. Has it? Forever. That's why you don't take your you don't take your material things to the other side. The only thing you take out in this world is character. And if you don't believe that this world is just a place to develop character and allegiance, proper allegiances. When you drop your body, you're going to find out some very disturbing facts. Most disturbing. The lady behind you. Understand that's your problem? Good for you. Recognizing it is step one. Probably the most important of all. That you realize that your own problem has come from, probably you're resentful like your mom, judgmental like your mom, right? Alright? Your mom, right? Alright? But more like mother resenting father. How do you feel towards your dad? But do you love your dad? Then you don't have. If you love your dad, you don't have judgment against him, do you? You just said, who's it for? The boyfriend? You do love your dad. Then which parent don't you love? You do. And neither mom or dad are judgmental. Who wears the pants in the house? No, I wear the pants in my house. Who wears the pants in your house? You can't have a bit of both. You can't be a little bit pregnant. It's one or the other. You can't be. Well, we can't be leader. You could be a leader one time, and I can be a leader the other time. The general will be that way. You have a problem. A captain. He didn't know whether he was the captain or not. Son? Isn't there some kind of leader in your household that you look up to as leader? Well, that's maybe what the problem is. After the break, okay? Come up the front so I can talk to you. Put you on the hot seat. See, I need to grill you because I need to make you see your idiosyncrasies. We haven't started yet with this young lady, but you mind if I take you apart a little bit? I don't mean to sit you on a hot seat to hurt you. I don't mean to sit you on a hot seat to hurt you. But if I ask you certain questions like a prosecuting attorney, I can actually get you to see that maybe you do what you don't. And that's the problem. You have to get to see it, and then you can, once you're seeing the confusion. Remember I said in the early part of the program, we think we love somebody when we hate them. Because we see ourselves patronizing them. And therefore we do love. I told my wife she doesn't love me. Oh yeah, I love you. She's still convinced she loves me. She doesn't. I'm on to put myself on a very special diet because I've been very ill. I'm on to put myself on a very special diet because I've been very ill. I had an amoeba and it wasn't diagnosed and it almost killed me and I'm just recovering from it. Doctors didn't help me very much. So I put myself on a special diet. I said I need this Ryvita, so I can eat it, and that'll be my dinner, my lunch. And so I mentioned it a couple of times and I got busy. My wife comes in with a bunch of cookies that she saw in the store. I said, why don't you get me that Ryvita? She didn't think of me. I said, you could have thought of it just as easily thought of it as the cookies you thought for yourself. It's not a big deal. It just tells me you don't have any thoughtfulness. She washes the clothes, big bundles of clothes, and she makes the dinners, and she fusses around and helps my bit, and she does a big job being seen doing good things. That was not the same thing as the tiny little. There's something about people who love you that you can tell it, and they do it without. Something about people who love you that you can tell it, and they do it without asking, but they don't make a big show of it because it's nothing to them. It's just their pleasure. There are people who want you to worship them, do things to dazzle you, to get you to see, to appreciate it. It's all the meaningless things because they want your approval. If you have somebody who works for you, who makes a big dazzling display of doing good things for you, don't give them a raise. Look for the one that's not working quietly, not looking for your approval, but doing his job. Because that one, if you give the person who's looking for approval, he's making a big display. He doesn't care. He's to manipulate you to get what he wants. So you can't say no. Good example of that. Father buys a bicycle for one of his sons and doesn't buy it for the other one. And the other one says, well, why did you Not by me, son, aren't I your son also? The other one says, well, why did you? Not by me, son, aren't I your son also? And the father says, well, number one, son, he swept the floor, he mowed the lawn, he did all these good things, and he's been doing it dutifully for years without looking for any advantage. He just did the right thing for the right reason. I want to give him the right thing because I want to give it to him, not for any other reason. He hasn't. So the other boy immediately starts to do the right thing, but he doesn't do it for the right reason. He does it to manipulate his father. And said, I'm not going to give you one because you're manipulating me to give it to you. It wouldn't be good for me to reward your manipulation. The problem is with the boy. How does he do the right thing without wanting anything in return? Only a person who does the right thing not wanting anything to return is worthy of any reward. Reward anyone else is worthy of any reward. Reward anyone else, and you've got trouble on your hands. You can't even give something to a person. You can't give welfare to the people on welfare because you're rewarding them. You're giving the unwashed. You can give something to me, and I'll appreciate myself independent, and I will make your heart glad you helped me. And I will always appreciate. For the last 35 years, I make a call to Las Vegas to a friend of mine who owns a radio station there, and I call him up and I say, I'll never forget what you did for me. He's still doing it, by the way. I say, I'll never forget what you did for me. He's still doing it, by the way. I'll never forget that you gave me my start, that you trusted in me and gave advice, and then you gave me some free time to get me on the, talk. He said, no, it's not really nothing. I said, no, it's not, it may be nothing to you, and I appreciate that. It's not really nothing. I said, no, it may be nothing to you, and I appreciate that. But it's something important to me that I recognize the source. It's important for me to do that, you see. But there are people who are so egotistical and selfish that if you give them, you make them dependent. They don't have it in. After a while, they hate you. And you feel guilty. You hate them back, and you feel guilty. And maybe you think, well, I haven't done enough, and you give them more. When you give them more, you make them more dependent. They don't know how to say no, but almost that you're building this ego that expects and has contempt for you at the same time. Have you ever found people you give them something and has contempt for you at the same time? Have you ever found people you give them something and you become their worst enemy? Have you ever noticed it? No. Don't give anything to anybody. Give very sparingly, but when they start to pressure you, don't give them anything. It's not good. There's only things to. Only certain people you can be kind to. You don't know who they are, but it doesn't take a little experimentation to see. They grow attached, they grow contemptuous. They make you feel like you have to give more. And you see what's happening to society? You've got a government, a socialist government that represents that principle. You, the permanent criminal underclass, they're not worthy of it. The more you give them, the worse they get, the more of them are there. Pretty soon there'll be more of them, there'll be more than you, and there'll be open warfare in the streets. Don't think it can't happen to England, happened in Germany. Don't think it can't happen to England, happened in Germany. Don't you think it can't happen with a right-wing backlash and have fascism here, preceded by communism? Don't think you won't have chaos if you don't understand those principles. But it's still the principles of family, the dysfunctional family. Okay, would you like lunch? Well, go pay for it yourself. There's some, but yes. Thank you for standing up in public. I just told you a few moments ago that for 12 years I had an amoebic infection, and I'm just recovering from it now. It's like steel, and I'm just doing the best I can. So don't judge me for it. Thank you. I won't eat too much. Don't worry. Thank you. Later on, I hope that we'll get into, later on, maybe tomorrow, we can get into some real personal stuff. It'll smart a little bit. Get it out, and you'll be finished with it. Because you tend to protect it. The strange thing about problems, you protect them and nurture them. Yeah? So, thank you very much.
For more information, please write to...
Yeah? So, thank you very much.
For more information, please write to FHU 27 Old Gloucester Street, London, WC1N 3XX, or